Erin Burnett is a former Wall Street trader who became a star business correspondent at CNBC. That, of course, a network that covers the hour-by-hour gyrations of the stock market. And Burnett was on the front lines right up to her emotional last day back in May.
We've been in breaking news mode at CNBC because breaking news for us is when the markets are really great or really horrible, and they were really horrible overnight everywhere around the world. Horrible.
Oh, were they really?
Horrible. H-A-W-R. Horrible.
I want to say first, and you can say.
Okay.
You should have the last word. Give me your hand. Coming to work for the last 5.5 years has been an absolute joy. You are the best. The absolute best. We wish you the best of luck. We're going to miss you a lot.
Well, I feel the same way. And anyway, that's... Goodbye.
I'm going to go home and cry.
With the late Mark Haynes. Erin Burnett begins her nightly CNN program Out Front tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern on CNN. I sat down with her earlier here in the studio. Erin Burnett, welcome.
Good to be with you, Howard.
Let's start with your old place, CNBC. Its coverage of the stock market gyrations sometimes seems so breathless that I wonder if the big picture is lost. Do you ever think about that?
Well, I mean, part of what we tried to do there, I mean, what they do now and what I used to try to do was sort of the play-by-play. You know, it's a football game, so there is sort of an excitement and a breathlessness to the markets or stories, so you need to cover it.
Yes.
But I do think one of the challenges is always taking that step back, right? Because if you're up a whole lot one day and everything is fueling it, then the next day it's down and everybody's in the dumps. They're trying to get that balance right.
And if you are covering the play-by-play, and there's a place for that, and day traders and people in the stock market really want to know this stuff, maybe you don't see that there's a housing bubble that might burst, or that Wall Street is overextended, mortgage investment firms, and the business media in general did not do a great job of warning us about what happened ultimately in 2008.
And that's interesting. And I mean, when I think about that conversation, I think your criticism, certainly accurate in some regards. I do remember though. I'll push back. I remember when Own It Financial, which was the first mortgage company to go under.
This is before Countrywide?
Oh, well before Countrywide. This was back in December of 2006. And I remember doing that story, leading the show with that story. And actually that January, leading the show with video of ostriches. And by the way, video of ostriches with their heads in the sand, Howard, is not the easiest video to come by. But writing that sentence and delivering it, we actually have the tape of, hey, investors, get your heads out of the sand. So, and that was our show, but there were plenty of other people, I think, in financial journalism who also did that. But the problem was the overall mood and excitement out there about the boom was bigger than the signs of warning. And sometimes people don't want to hear it. So we did it. I feel that we did a good job.
I want to take the punch bowl away to party.
Right.
Let's go to today. Here's my problem. There's an unemployment crisis in this country.
Yes.
14 million people are out of work. But 14 million people were also out of work last week. So there isn't necessarily any news to it, but it is something that is affecting and inflicting lots of pain. And yet it seems to me the focus of so much media coverage and business coverage is about the budget brinksmanship here in Washington, the stock market going up and down 200, 300, 400 points a day. Are we missing the job story?
You know, it's really tough because the budget, I mean, they're all linked together, of course, right? I mean, as you have uncertainty and nothing happening in Washington, that causes problems in terms of creating jobs. But I think part of the problem is when you cover the budget, you can cover it, right? Who's to blame? Who's doing this? What can be done? What could be done better? You can talk about plans.
Will there be a credit downgrade?
Right, and with the jobs problem, it's a crisis. But what could you do? If there was a magic answer, somebody would have done it. Whatever your political point of view, right, a Democrat, or someone would know what to do. A CEO would stand up and say, well, I do A, B, and C, and everything's great. Nobody knows how to solve that. And so it's a hard thing to talk about day in and day out, even though certainly it is the most important story above and beyond all of this other conversation.
President Obama has a $450 billion jobs plan on the table. Some House Republicans have already said, well, we're not going to raise taxes on millionaires and people over 250. Has there been enough analysis in our business about whether this could work, whether this should work? Do we engage in this sort of fantasy that presidents can fix the economy when, of course, the economy is this big, complex thing?
I think we do engage in that fantasy. And it's interesting when you think about this whole thing.
I'm probably as guilty as anyone else.
Well, we all do it, but who's going to jump into the presidential election? You know, should Chris Christie rate because the economy gets better? But this whole conversation is all really about the economy. I do think that we have analyzed the plan in the sense of, if you look at some of the basics of it, right, a payroll tax cut, unemployment benefit, insurance extension, there's been a lot of analysis of whether those things will work and to what extent we should do them. So I do think we're having informed conversations around some of the key parts of it.
Was it a difficult decision to leave CNBC? You seemed pretty emotional that last day.
Well, it was very hard to leave Mark Haynes, and obviously Mark was a dear friend, and I miss some of my friends there, Jim Cramer. But I was thrilled with this opportunity. It was just too good to pass up, to come to CNN, to be able to do a primetime show, to talk about issues I care about, one of which is the economy, but there's other ones as well that can become core to what I do.
Will you still be getting together with Cramer to argue off camera?
Yeah, Cramer and I actually were together recently at my launch party, and it was fantastic.
By doing a more general show here at CNN, are you to some extent giving up your business brand? You were so closely identified with being a market reporter. You worked at Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's taken you a lot of years to gain that credibility. Is that a difficult transition for you?
Well, I think the first answer to that is it's still important for me in the sense that the election is, the economy is the most important issue in the election. And I believe in general that money and where money is going and who is getting money is central to every story. And
You're not walking away from that.
No, and I think that's an important angle that we can bring to all stories. But a lot of the things that I love in terms of the foreign reporting and some of the issues that I really care about that have a financial aspect, but also a much broader aspect, which I did at CNBC, but wasn't really the core of what they did, is now the core. So I think it's a perfect fit.
Well, you've been doing rehearsals. You're ready to go Monday.
I'm sick of rehearsals.
You're sick of rehearsals.
Yes, I am sick of rehearsals. That's right.
Let's do it live.
If there's something that's going to happen, just let it happen.
What is the show going to feel like? What is the focus of it? Is it going to be a lot of politics? Is it a news hour? Is it a news and opinion hour?
Well, it's going to be what we're trying to be a part of what modern news is. I believe that younger people, and by younger, by the way, we all know the demo for nightly news, right? It's 60 plus, and that's great. You want those people to watch too, but younger people care about news. I believe that. I think when you look at all the statistics of iPad use and website use.
They have drifted away from television.
That's right, but there are more TVs in American homes than there ever have been before, so they're still buying TVs. So I think that there's something there we can capitalize on. It's going to have energy, it's going to be casual, and the name out front is a mission statement for us. It's become almost a verb, right? You know, how President Bush made Google a verb. It's a verb for us. Is that out front? How do we out front this? Original reporting, a special angle, a fact-based point of view. That is going to be part of the brand of what it is.
Up next, Erin Burnett talks about her challenge of competing in cable's polarized marketplace.